Hello everyone and welcome to today's video. I will be testing out the new Natasha Denona I Need a New palette. So if you want to hear my thoughts on this beauty, then please stick around for today's video. I'm going to first show you a beautiful close-up of the palette and just some of the pretty swatches. And this palette retails for $69. Now I will say that I did not pick this up at Sephora on the 18th. I picked it up at Natasha Denona on the 19th. That way I could save some money because Natasha Denona now has an affiliate program and I use one of my friend's codes to save some money. I got this for 15% off. For me, it was more important to wait and save some money than to pop up a review because I definitely wanted to get that discount on this palette. But just right off the bat, I feel like so many people have been waiting for just like a true everyday soft romantic palette from her, and I wanted to first kind of pop up. Let me just show you some comparisons, if you will. So the Glam palette, this one to me, they're not identical. Yes, this one leans a little cool tone, but soft in a way, whereas Glam is like straight cool tone gray, if you will, and more like, I would say more sultry than this one. This one is like everyday, whereas this has more of those grays, silvers, but you could still like, they're very similar, I will say. But yeah, this one is more sultry, silver gray, smoky, and this is more of like light, airy, cool tone, if you will. Now let me show you the bronze palette, which they're not similar at all. This one is definitely warm tone to the extreme, very orange, copper leaning, and then let me just kind of put them up side by side. These are two completely opposite color stories, if you will. Very warm, very cool, and neutral. And then I wanted to also show you the Glam Face palette. In case you have this, I feel like you could just use these tones down here and maybe save some money. But before I jumped into the look, I did want to show you some of those comparisons, if you will. But obviously the one that is just very similar is the Glam palette, but they're still different enough to where if you wanted to splurge and get the new one, I think you still would enjoy it. Where like you could use this as like everyday, you know, work, school palette, whatever your life it revolves, you could just wear it every day. And this one, you could really be sultry and dress it up for nighttime, or if you just like a really true smoky look. But let me zoom you in and we'll get started with the look. Okay, so I want to first start off with the shade Fair. It's more of like just like that true creamy shade, and I just want to kind of set my concealer just a little bit in the crease before I go in with those mattes. Okay, there is some pigment from this, I will say. That's nice. I do love did I technically need this palette? No, I did not, because I have the Makeup by Mario palette. I have got so many neutral palettes in my collection, some from Lunar Beauty, things like that, but I needed this from Natasha Denona, which is, I feel like it's a very popular palette. This is already sold out at Sephora. I'm going to go in with the shade Mesh next. When I saw this, I have been seeing this for a few weeks. I had some people send me spoilers of the palette because I feel like every Natasha Denona palette gets leaked at this point. And when I saw this, at first I was like, holy moly, everyone's going to lose their minds because it's so beautiful and neutral. But then I was like, is it too boring? Is it too boring? For me, no. But I will definitely say I don't think this palette is for everybody. But definitely if you're a Natasha Denona fan, I feel like your heart's going to be happy with this one. I'm just mixing them all together. I want to go with the shade Stone. They're very similar, but they just have just a touch of a different hue to each. That way they're not too repetitive. But it just creates like an easy blend when they're very close in tone. But it's a little redundant, I will say. Just, I'm being critical, if you will. I want to go with the shade Tender. This is like, I would say, the coolest grayish taupey tone in here, if you will. But they do have a soft difference in each of the mattes. They're so pretty. Like, this could really make it go gray. I'm just going to go into it just a little bit. I don't want it to take over. I was just kind of curious how different those mattes were, but they provide an excellent blend, to say the least. I have been dying to go in with the shade Ella. Is this the one I want to go into? Yeah, I might mix these two. So Ella right here, I kind of want to do more of a smoky look. Pop in some of these actual, just like smoky browns, if you will. Now, I feel like Natasha Denona's swatches really sold everybody because they just like glided down her arm. And in my swatches, I did not get the same impact. I definitely had to build them up, but I just wanted to say, like, your expectations may not Don't let those swatches like make you think you're gonna get that on your swatches. They're very buildable. I will say you don't get that much pigment, but obviously editing, all of those things will help. But I do love the way that shade looks. Now I'm curious, I'm gonna go in with this one right here. It's a little bit deeper than the shade Ella, and I want to put that, this one is very, very soft. I'm curious if this is the one that she used. Actually, no, this one's too dark. Just want to put this a little bit on the outer corner. Now I will say, you can definitely get a few looks. I was just kind of like looking at the palette, and if you don't want all your looks to be the same, kind of like in the Yucca palette, you're gonna have to very like consciously know, okay, I want to go in with the pinks, or I want to go in with the taupes, or I want to go in with like some of the smoky tones. You're gonna have to be conscious about that, or else all your looks could potentially look like one another. I found that was the case with the Yucca palette, but I think if you are very decisive on which ones you go in with, you could get more versatility with this palette. I just want to blend out some of the edges, but boy, for like every day, this palette, if I was still like working every day, all those long hours, this would have been my go-to palette, man. I want to go in with the shade Sheen right here and put that on the inner corner. I will say that like her new formula, I know everyone was really excited about it. Yes, it's beautiful, like the new wet formula, but it didn't knock my socks off based off swatches. It's just so beautiful and almost like ethereal. Very similar to the Makeup by Mario palette. I will show you side by side those, because if you missed out on that one, I think this would be your best option if you still would like that palette in your life. But unfortunately, it's no longer available. Now for the lower lash line, I kind of want, what I want to do. I think I'm going to put Muse on top. This one honestly was like the most intense. I want to put this just a little bit on the inner part, but this one could definitely take over. It has so much sparkle, and if you are someone that you want to see lots and lots of comparisons with swatches, go check out Lauren May Beauty's review on this palette. It was like an hour long, and she took the time to swatch and show so many different comparisons. And I think that if you're like teeter-tottering, like, do I need it? I don't want to do it myself. Is it worth it? I would definitely check out that video if you really need to see lots of different comparisons. I wasn't able to watch the whole thing, but I did kind of skim through it because I was curious. And yeah, I think it's an amazing video review. If you are kind of, you don't know which way you're going to go on this palette. Oh man. Honestly, I didn't know how much I was going to like it, but just the way it performs, amazing formula so far. But keep in mind, this is just my first impressions, but I'm just showing you, like, I am really impressed with this. I want to kind of mix just a few of those mattes that we went in the crease with, and I'm just going to put that on the lower lash line. But as you can see, they're blending out and building on one another. Very easy, but that's expected from Natasha Denona at this point. She always has just the prettiest color stories, and you already know you're gonna get an amazing quality. It just comes off personal preference, rather like if this palette is for you or not. But holy moly, it's beautiful. Okay, so this is a finished look. I'm going in with my Unearthly Lippy in the shade Diana, just because I want it to be a little bit more cool tone. Right now it's a little warm, so I just want to put that on top. And I went in with my What's Up Beauty mascara. I also went in with my Hard Candy White Out liner. And then I added just a little bit of the shade Silhouette on the definition, like on the outer part for some definition, and almost as like liner in a way. But this is what I came up with, so I'm going to wash this off and then do look number 2. Okay, so I'm back. I'm going to go into the shade Fair again and just set my concealer and just a little bit of the crease. And for this look, I want to see how different I can get it versus more of like pinky, maybe even like the terracotta vibes. We'll see. I just want to challenge this palette and see how versatile I can get it, just so you back at home will know if you can, I don't know if you're going to get a cool tone gray look every time or if you can switch it up. But I did like that almost like cool bronzy look I just did. That's the one, whenever I saw this palette, I just knew I wanted to do. Now I'm going to go with the shade right here, Wit, and then I'm going to go with this one. I'm going to mix these two together. I want to see how they're going to look on my skin tone. I would consider myself right now light. In the winter, I'm really fair. Right now, I'm light. In the summer, I would say I'm a light medium. But I think that depending on your, like the tone of your skin, this palette's going to pull differently on everybody. So it may look cool, extra cool gray on others, where some it may look more neutral vibes. So this is just like a very soft pink, rosy, taupey, whatever. I'm terrible at describing shades. It's so pretty. It's a soft romantic pink. It's not harsh at all. Very, very pretty. Those two shades blended out so beautifully with one another. Now, I'm trying to think. So, I want to go with the shade Muse. This is more, it might make it a little bit more bronze, but the shade Mia, it's so icy that if you layer this on, it would be pretty. I'm going to put Mia in the inner corner. But for the lid, I want to go with the shade Muse because that one, I think that's the one that she swatched and left us all drooling. Because it was so lovely. Apologize for my nails. They look so bad, but I had to start playing with this as soon as it got to me. So this is the shade Muse, and it's definitely more of like one of those textured shades, but still very pigmented and beautiful. Just like the perfect everyday champagne color, if you ask me. So, so pretty. And it is very pigmented. For me, this was like the shimmer that brought the most like punch, if you will. Oh, it just looks so pretty. I really do like how you get a mix of textures. I think that adds a lot of versatility as well. So you could be very date night, very amped up sparkle, or you could very just as easily have it more toned down and subtle. But versus like, I would say like the Glam palette, you don't have like a pink shimmer in here like you do that one. So just know that this is more like soft champagnes, bronzy tones, whereas Glam is more silvers, pinks with a few bronzy tones. So it just kind of whichever one you like better. So let me finish this look up real quick. On the lower lash line, I want to go in with those two more pinky tones and just kind of make it more cohesive and match what we have on the top. And then I'll be back to show you look number 2. Okay, so this is the finished look for look number 2. I do like how it's still very neutral, a little cool tone leaning with some soft pink romantic tones in there. I do really enjoy this look. Whenever I reach for pinks, these are the pinks that I like to use typically. So I'm going to wash this off and I'll be back to show you look number 3. Okay, so for look number 3, I want to see how, I don't know, deep and sexy I can get this palette, if you will. I want to go in the shade Fair. Now I want to set what I have on my crease. It just helps everything build a lot better whenever you do multiple looks like I'm doing. It helps everything be cohesive and you don't get any creases. Now I want to go in the shade Silhouette for sure, but first I'm going to go in with the grayish tone, I would say, which is Tender right here. It's absolutely beautiful. Whereas the other two, they're more of like a taupe, where this one you could definitely get more gray, whereas the others are just a soft taupe. They have a hint of like almost like a rosiness to it. Next I'm going in with Silhouette. It's the deepest shade in the palette. And I'm just going to really pack this one on and see how it looks, because this one I had to pack on whenever I did the swatches to get more pigmentation. Okay, so as you can see, once you get Silhouette layered on, I didn't go too deep with it. I just wanted to do about this range. And I will say that as you can see, it's not a neutral palette. Everyone says neutral, meaning like wearable, everyday friendly. This shade right here is very cool tone, but it has almost like a hint of purple in it. I love it, but I just wanted to note that don't think you're going to get like a very neutrally brown. Like, let me show you in the Glam Face palette. Like, you don't have a chocolate brown like that. I just wanted to point that out, that most of these tones are going to lean more gray, coal, some taupey, even rosy, but I just wanted to show you that you could see this isn't like a brownie neutral shade. It's more of a gray leaning shade. So for all over, well, first I wanted to try out these two. So Whisper right here was just like a very soft, very effortless shimmer, almost like a, I don't know, it's not like a true metallic, it's a very soft everyday. I just kind of wanted to see what that looked like because I was unsure. See, there's not much to that shade. So if you're one that does not like a very sparkly shade, you just want a very soft sheen, I just wanted to show you, maybe like every day you don't feel comfortable wearing sparkles to work. That's a very beautiful sheen without being shimmery. and very flattering on your lid, so I'm going to kind of balance out. But I did want to note that because whenever I was swatching it, I was like, okay, that's a different texture. So I know there's people out there, not me, but there are people out there that don't want to sparkle. Now I'm going to go with this one. It looks like a little bit deeper than Whisper. This is that same formula. There's not really much sparkle to it. It's a very, like, for me, this shade was like meh, if you will. I wish we had one or the other. Let me just layer this one on. But it's not much, I don't know. It's nothing that's going to knock your socks off. So those are those two. But now, you know me, I'm going to add something a little bit more sparkly on. But I did want to note that these two right here, if you're not a sparkly lover, you may enjoy those. But if you do like sparkles and you don't like a shadow like that, there are two in this palette. Next, I'm going to go in with this one right here. And I want to really put this one all over and see how deep I can get it. This one has a hint of warmth to it. And I do really enjoy that look. So I'm going to pack this on. I want to add a little bit of Delilah on the inner part. This is that new formula. It reminds me a lot of the Makeup by Mario, but his are more gritty, I would say. This is fun. I'm into it, but it's nothing to feel the need to go out and spend $70 on, because if you hear, oh, Natasha Denona has a new formula, like that can be really exciting, but it's nothing, it's beautiful. Don't get me wrong. It's very luxe, but that's kind of what you get. So I just wanted to point that out. And I think I have used every shade in the palette. I'm just double checking. Yes, I have. So for the inner corner, I'm going to pop back into Sheen. I do like this one for the inner corner. It's very beautiful. Everyday, just lightens it up a bit. And I'm going to finish this look off real quick. Okay guys, so I just added some black liner mascara, and that's everything. I just blended out the lower lash line, and I wanted to make this more smoky, so I added the black. So this is my third look. I'm going to zoom you out and give you my thoughts on this palette. Okay guys, so I'm going to start off with the packaging. A+, love it. I think it is so beautiful and like artsy in a way, super modern and cute. And then the inside, it's a very beautiful, everyday friendly palette. This isn't a neutral color story. On my skin tone, it can be neutral-esque, but it leans more cool tone. It's cool tone palette without being just gray or black, you know, so not neutrals, but beautiful cool tones. And I do like that there's those rosy aspects. I wanted to show you the Makeup by Mario, the Ethereal Eyes palette. This one leans more warm tones with those browns, so it's not an exact dupe, but I don't know. You can get this if you missed out on it, but it's just, for me, they're just too different. So I don't want to say like they're dupes in a way, because they're just not. They have different tones. Yes, there's some very similar shades in here, but you get a lot of extra warmth within this palette, which is something that this one is lacking. And then obviously the Glam palette, let me get it. This is just they're similar, but this one's just more gray leaning. But I do like the versatility with the pinks and the bronze and the warms, but this is just like the sexy sister to the new one, I would say. But definitely, if you have the Glam, you don't technically have to get this one, because you could definitely find very similar shades. Like, I think all three looks I created today, you could probably recreate using the Glam palette. So I just wanted to keep that in mind. But now if you're like, okay, this is the most boring but beautiful palette I've ever seen in my life, yes, I understand. So if this is too boring for you, I did want to recommend this one right here, the My Dream palette. These are beautiful everyday tones, but really amped up, so it can take it to very sexy romantic levels, if you will. You can get like your neutrals, you can get the browns with the pinks, or you can go very purple, very deep with the black. So if this one's too neutral for you, neutral meaning very soft tones, and you want something a little fun, I would definitely recommend My Dream palette, because the looks that you see today, those are pretty much what you're going to get every time with this palette. But you could definitely, there's so many people that are very talented that could get super deep with this shade, and you could do halo looks, you could change your looks, but overall the aesthetic, the overall tones will be very similar to what I created today. But I do like the range and the depth, very light to very deep. I like that you get some of those taupey shades, you get a very deep shade. I like the pinks in here. So yeah, overall, I really do like this palette. Is this my favorite launch of the year? I know everyone's saying like this is their holy grail, like favorite palette that's launched so far. No, but is it one of my top favorites? Absolutely, I love. Don't even get me wrong. Like, I'm going to be wearing this all the time. It's like my perfect everyday soft wearable. It's like my comfort zone, this palette. If I'm not testing or doing bold, extravagant looks, well, you know, maybe something like multi-chromes. If I'm not doing a look like that and I just need to go run errands or something, this is going to be my go-to palette. But I do hope that you enjoyed my 3 looks. I'll definitely be creating more. Let me know if you're going to pick it up. Wow, Natasha Denona definitely blew our minds with this one. I can definitely see so many people this being their absolute holy grail palette because the formula, it's so nice, and I love all the different textures. But that's going to do it for today's video. Wherever you are in the world, I hope you're doing well. I hope that you are healthy, happy, and safe. Stay beautiful. Bye, guys.